The army rolls into the Zimbabwean capital, firing live ammunition as opposition supporters protest election results that show Zanu-PF in the lead. We are live there shortly. The ANC says its call for change to the constitution is not usurping the land expropriation hearings, which are still underway. This is eNews at 8, live from Johannesburg. I'm Sally Burdett. Good evening. Well, we start in Zimbabwe, and there is calm in the capital this evening after chaos on the streets of Harare earlier today. After a peaceful vote on Monday, the tanks rolled in this afternoon when protesters took to the streets. The Election Commission announced today that Zanu-PF had won the majority of parliamentary seats, but MDC leader Nelson Chamisa says his party has won the vote. Now, our reporters were in the streets of the capital as the violence unfolded.
They are saying they are defending their victory, and they've been marching throughout the streets of the CBD and just looking at some hawkers who had to quickly pack up their merchandise as the protesting members and supporters of the MDC Alliance take to the street. These are the scenes right now in the city center of Harare.
We are looking here at what looks like images of Zimbabwe's police. They are locked in some sort of exchange with a group. We know there have been protests in the capital this afternoon as MDC supporters, we understand, grow ever so impatient with the announcement of the election results.
They're sort of running now, this crowd, because I don't know if you can see that, Tembekile. Look at that. There's actually police, in fact, units that look like military. Units that look like military. Cannot really confirm if it's really military, but they do look like military. You should see this crowd running away from this unit.
There was a very loud blast in the last second, and there's another one, there's another one. Those are really loud. They are louder than the ones we heard earlier on. In fact, we'll be walking, oh my goodness. Tembekile, This is going horribly wrong. To me, in my limited experience, this sounds like automatic fire. It's coming from the direction in which the police, the military chased this young man. It's coming from that direction. There's an army truck moving. Oh my goodness.
Well, Tula Sizwe also spoke to some of the people who were injured during the chaos.
I was beaten by soldiers. They were coming in that direction, but they beat me up and it was kicking me all over my body. Even if you can look at my head, I'm injured. They started to beat me up, but I haven't done anything wrong.
Where were you coming from? Were you part of the MDC march?
No, I wasn't part of the MDC march. So I wasn't running away and they started to beat me up. I was beaten by the soldiers.
And they are using live ammunition. What happened? Where were you when you were beaten? Tell me, where were you coming from? What was happening around you?
Actually, I was participating in a peaceful demonstration. And then all of a sudden, I was knocked down, beaten, using baton sticks. I don't know some other equipment.
I mean, I'm looking at your injuries to your mouth, and your tooth is broken. I see that you also have a deep gash in there by your hand. Why did you come out to march in the first place? What was the march all about?
I'm defending my vote. They've been stealing our votes all along, and this time they can't get away with it. I have to defend it. I was exercising my constitutional right.
Well, let's go live to Harare, and our reporter there is Aldrin Sampier. Good evening to you, Aldrin. Could you give us the latest this evening, please?
Well, good evening. Calm has returned here in the Zimbabwe city center of Harare after hours of running battles between the police as well as the army, as you've indicated, the visuals that we've seen, that we just played now, and bringing bullets throughout the city center. I was actually saying to my colleague just now, one of the harrowing scenes that I saw earlier on is one of the people being caught literally in the crossfire. And this was a woman who had a baby on her back, and she had to quickly duck and jump into a moving taxi as the police as well as the army were running battles with these rioting protesters. But for now, it seems that calm has returned to the city centre.
And such tragic scenes after a peaceful vote on Monday. We have unconfirmed reports of deaths. Any confirmation at this stage on that, Eldrin?
Well, the police spokesperson speaking on the public broadcaster, the ZBC, indicated that 3 people have been killed in these protests. She also indicated that it was the police commissioner general who had called for the assistance of the army because the police don't have the capacity to deal with the situation as it stands at the moment. But she also went a bit further to indicate that the army, as they are deployed in and around Harare, that they will remain under the command of the police general commissioner.
So confirming 3 people dead. This is now confirmed by the police, am I correct?
This is 3 people. That's the message that we got from ZBC, that 3 people have been killed in these running battles between the army, the police, as well as the protesters.
Has there been any comment from the military or even the presidency about these deaths and about the allegations of police brutality and army brutality?
Well, actually, in a statement that was issued by the presidency earlier on, the president indicates or says that the loss of life, that the opposition should take responsibility for this loss of life, and those who lose should never translate their disappointment into hooliganism. And the last time we actually heard from Nelson Chamisa or saw something directly from him was a tweet that he sent out in the early hours of the day just after the protest started, where he said that he thanked the Zimbabweans. He said then, I'm quoting him here from his tweet, he said, "I'm humbled by the support you have given me as the presidential candidate. We have won the popular vote. You voted for total change in the past election. We have won this one together. No amount of results manipulation will alter your will." And this was something that was also reiterated just a couple of minutes ago by the spokesperson of the MDC.
So the MDC is saying these elections are rigged, we got the popular vote, but all the authorities, and my understanding is most of the observers, are saying there haven't really been any incidents. Where does the truth lie?
Well, the observers haven't even indicated if there was any vote rigging, but they wouldn't be able to say whether there was because their observation is only up until election day, which would be the report back ends on the 30th of July, at the end of the 30th of July, after polling stations close. So vote rigging may probably happen. This is now probably according to the MDC Alliance during the counting phase, and it's only after the counting phase that the observer missions will then give a final report. All the observer missions have indicated that the scenes leading up to the elections have been quite different to what we experienced back in 2008 as well as 2013. However, though, the European Union has raised some concerns in terms of transparency when it comes to the Zimbabwean Electoral Commission.
Thank you so much for that update. That's our reporter in Harare, Aldrin Samper, telling us the confirmed news that 3 people were killed in those protests this afternoon. The police called in the army to assist. The situation is calm at the moment. Still ahead on eNews, women across the country march to draw attention to the crisis of gender-based violence. The ANC has moved one step closer towards the expropriation of land without compensation. The party announcing last night that it had resolved to change the constitution to this effect. But the decision to amend Section 25 really lies with all South Africans and with both houses of parliament and a 2/3 majority. It's going to be a lengthy legislative process, as Annika Larson reports.
The Joint Constitutional Review Committee is on the last leg of its hearings on whether South Africans want the Constitution to be amended. Once the committee returns to Parliament in Cape Town, public hearings are expected to be held until August the 17th, with individuals or organisations who have made submissions. During September, the committee will deliberate on its draft report before tabling its recommendations to the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. If there's resolution that South Africans do want an amendment, then another motion will be advanced to set up a committee to look at the wording and conditions for Section 25 of the Constitution to be changed. After more public hearings, a draft bill will be voted on, and that's where the numbers get crucial. A constitutional amendment that involves the Bill of Rights needs a 2/3 majority in the National Assembly and the green light from 6 out of 9 provinces in the National Council of Provinces to be passed. The ANC does not have a 2/3 majority in the House and needs the support of the EFF and other smaller parties to succeed. 133 votes could block a constitutional amendment.
This means there is a long journey ahead. It has to also be published in the Government Gazette and is unlikely to happen before next year's general elections. Anna Kalasen, Parliament.
Well, with that process still underway, it begs the question why President Cyril Ramaphosa made the announcement he did last night. Why not wait until the public hearings on land expropriation are wrapped up? Well, the ANC insists it is not trying to undermine the process. Here's Enoch Godongwana.
Are we trying to undermine the parliamentary process? No, not at all. We are recognizing that process, we're meeting at the tail end of that process. And clearly, the implications of that are suggesting that most of our people favor the route we're taking. And therefore, as a political party, we will contribute, like all other political parties, to this process. That's our contribution to that discourse in Parliament. We're not undermining Parliament.
Today, women across the country marched to draw attention to the crisis of gender-based violence in South Africa. In Cape Town, the total shutdown march made its way to Parliament. In Durban, protesters marched to City Hall. And in Pretoria, the scenes today, as the country marks the start of Women's Month, were reminiscent of the 1956 Women's March, where thousands of women marched to the union buildings to protest against past laws. Leranzo Temba reports.
They took to the streets of the capital city, their pain and anger visible. These women are tired of the violence and attacks they have to deal with daily. All they want is safety, free from violence and emotional abuse. The women say the state is taking too long to end sexual violence, femicide, and the murders of the most vulnerable in society. Some here used their bodies to make their point.
Women have always conformed to the norms of society, how we should dress, how we should look, how we should behave. And today this is me disrupting that status quo. And I'll continue disrupting the status quo. And if it makes people uncomfortable, that is the point. It needs to be uncomfortable in order for change to happen.
We are taking ownership of our bodies, that we want to be safe in whatever space we choose to be. We should be allowed to wear whatever we want.
Others chose to remain silent. A sad fate of many victims.
I'm marching today because in 2014 I got banned by the man that I trusted, the man that I laid for over a decade next to. But he decided to ban me with acid.
The shutdown was about women and no men were allowed to take part.
This is about us. It's not about men, and men need to stop centering themselves around it. And it also speaks to the issue of consent. When we're telling them no, they want to question our consent.
In 1956, women of all races staged a picket to the union buildings protesting against past laws. 62 years later, women have come together again, this time calling for protection.
Stop killing, stop banning us. We are tired. We are tired. We need change.
Our children must be safe. We must be safe.
A memorandum of 24 demands was handed over to government. These include the establishment of sexual offences courts to deal with cases of gender-based violence, which they hope will result in more convictions. Leranzo Temba, Pretoria.
Let's recap your top stories this evening. The army rolls into the Zimbabwean capital, firing live ammunition as opposition supporters protest election results that show Zanu-PF in the lead, and the police in Zimbabwe have confirmed 3 people have died in those protests. The ANC says its call for change to the constitution is not usurping the land expropriation hearings, which are still underway. We've got weather for you next. And then, what lengths would you go to fill the hole left by a pet that has died? We bring you a very fishy story after the break.
Welcome to the Weather Center. We are going to start off Thursday with this cold front introducing cloud and rainy weather into the south coast of the Eastern Cape. We will also start off the day with a bit of cloud over the western and southern areas, as well as over eastern KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. It will be fine but chilly for the central areas. Then in the afternoon, we are going to see lots of sunshine across the bulk of the country, rather hot for western Limpopo, and over the southern sections, there will be a small chance of drizzly conditions late in the afternoon for the eastern areas of the Western Cape. Then towards the evening, rainy weather spreads into KwaZulu-Natal, reaching eastern Mpumalanga late on Thursday night. Now we are expecting mostly sunny skies for your Thursday across much of the Northern Cape. It's going to be mild to warm for the eastern half of the province, but cooler for the western and southern sections. Mostly sunny skies are forecast for the Western Cape, where highs in the upper teens and lower 20s are forecast for much of the province. It's going to be cloudy and rainy for the southern areas of the Eastern Cape, as well as over parts of the east coast. Pretty chilly for some places, Port Elizabeth peaking at just 16 degrees. Rain showers are forecast later on in the day for the southern parts of KwaZulu-Natal and along the coastal areas, where Durban and Richards Bay should peak at just 22 degrees. It's going to be partly cloudy for eastern Mpumalanga, but sunny and warm weather is forecast across the Highveld areas. It's going to be sunny for the western half of the Limpopo province, where hot afternoon temperatures are forecast from Lephalale down to Bela Bela. Sunny and pretty warm weather is forecast across much of the northwest, where highs in the upper 20s are forecast in most places. We are also going to see a sunny one across the Free State, where top temperatures in the lower 20s are forecast in most areas. A sunny and pleasantly warm Thursday is forecast for the Gauteng province, Soweto and Johannesburg, both peaking at around 25 degrees. Now here's looking ahead to your Friday. It's going to be cloudy and rainy for parts of Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal, a bit of rain for East London and Port Elizabeth. It will be mostly sunny for the rest of the country. Then on Saturday, we are going to see rain and thunder showers for the southwestern areas.
And finally to Texas in the USA, where a jaw-dropping theft has ended on a happy note. A shark, fondly known as Miss Helen, was stolen from an aquarium this past weekend. But today, she's back in her tank. Police tracked down the culprits, a team of 3, who'd put the ocean predator in a baby's pram to make their getaway. Now, authorities say Anton Shannon stole the shark because he was trying to replace his own pet shark that had died. The unusual theft has drawn worldwide attention as footage of the crime went viral. The trio confessed to the crime but are yet to be charged. Before I go, a recap of your top stories. Well, the army rolls into the Zimbabwean capital, firing live ammunition as opposition supporters protest election results that show Zanu-PF in the lead, and 3 people have been confirmed dead this evening. The ANC says its call for change to the constitution is not usurping the land expropriation hearings, which are still underway. And that's the news from me and the team. It's a very good night.